I have to say, I was a pretty big fan of them revealing Tenji as the one who not only stole the money, but seemingly was the one responsible for signing them up to this insane mind game. But to really see how big of a scumbag he is, and the fact that we hardly get any other character's perspective, the only internal thoughts we really get are from the man who caused this bullshit, all because he wanted a girl who didn't want him. Like, he is such a maximum scumbag. But it's fascinating to reveal that secret so early, because where do you go from here if you're going to prolong this game and things like that? But from what we got a taste of in the earlier episodes, our main character seemingly is a bit of a crazy bastard himself, and he has these glares that in any other show would make him the villain, which is why prior to the reveal of who is the actual traitor, there was an argument to be made that potentially even he was baffling the viewers. But the idea that as soon as that slap happened, I was like, there's no way he's simply slapping a girl because another girl's upset. That just doesn't give me the impression that's why that happened. To me, it was almost like he was setting something up, and then by the time the punchline came, I was like, okay, clearly he was casting doubt. He was clearly laying the breadcrumbs for someone to follow, and whether he realizes it's Tenji or not, or has his suspicions, Yuichi is going to cause some shit, and that shit is probably going to make for a lot of characters to sweat, whether they're guilty or not. But I have to say, really getting inside this man's head and just really seeing how horrible he is was an interesting turn of events, especially given the fact that he actually covered his tracks fairly well. He badmouthed himself, about the age thing, he didn't write things the next time, but then in comes seemingly our main character saying that Shibe killed someone. And this is an interesting puzzle for me, because there's two options I see likely. Either A, that was a complete and utter lie that somehow he got around rules to preventing, like, maybe it was a he said, she said, so maybe it's technically the truth because he heard someone say it sort of a thing. Or the thing that I'm thinking is going to happen is that maybe it revolves around bullying, because was there a kid at their school who killed himself? Was it because, did he end up bullying? Was he a part of the bullying or something? Did a kid take his life? Did Shibe, consider himself responsible for that because he was a piece of shit? That seems like a very likely scenario to me, but it does throw an interesting wrench because that's a pretty big bombshell to drop. So either A, he thinks Shibe is responsible for the money and everything like that, or two, he's really trying to get under the real traitor's head to see how he'll respond and how, maybe he'll expose himself sort of a thing. Incredible cliffhanger. I mean, I thought they did a great job last week with dropping a cliffhanger, but this week was in a league of its own, so it has me pretty excited. I mean, everyone who I think read the title of this week's episode prior to it releasing about That's So Cringe or something along those lines, I thought it was going to be something way more in Tenji's line of thinking. Oh, I'm going to be a stalker. I'm going to want to wrap my arms around her throat and make it so she can never leave me sort of a guy. Like, that to me was what I thought the cringe was going to be. Not, this puppet guy just popping up being like, this is true, that's cringe. I'm like, god damn. What the hell is he reading? I was like, oh, that could actually be pretty extreme if that's the truth. But it was very interesting focusing on someone who is very easy to hate. I mean, this man is a psychopath. He's a scumbag. The fact that he's manipulating this girl is so hard, basically emotionally abusing her to the point of needing him above all else, right? Because, the person that she's in love with seemingly is taking the other girl's side. He's hitting her, everyone's basically pushing her away. And then you have this man who you didn't think you loved, but he's the only one giving you comfort and basically forcing her to go with the person who's literally abusing her. It's just such a toxic relationship. And to see how this man, I love what they did with the directing, because you see it from their perspective. It's just a guy who's either concerned, cautious, sometimes seems pretty caring, and a couple of times seems a little vengeful, but they're in the middle of a game with dead and who's the real traitor, so I don't think anyone's going to really bat an eye at that. Quick glimpses, sometimes it's a millisecond, sometimes they linger on it, but his face just, he's a serial killer, man. That's the type of guy you would expect to see behind the Saw movies or something, right? Just someone who, got denied the prom one time and then made it his mission to just become the most socially awkward reject the world has ever seen, who posts hate mail on Twitter 24/7. It's just crazy to see how this man is navigating, and I love the fact that because we already know who is responsible, you really get a sense of, you understand how people could misunderstand or not suspect him especially when he starts pinning the blame on Shibe. Or I think one of his most brilliant yet toxic things he did in this episode is when he out loud kind of exposes the girl he is supposedly into and makes everyone distrust her even more. Like, there's just so many good big brain plays to pin the blame on people, but man, you don't, like, on one hand, I'm like, that's actually a really smart move, but then I remember how big of a scumbag he is, and I'm just wishing for his demise. But I really do enjoy it because I don't see this enough, I think, where seemingly the big thing that's going to keep viewers interested, who done it, so to speak. You know, that's the thing that gets prolonged, and eventually either people realize who it is too soon and feel like everyone's an idiot for not realizing it, or, you know, they eventually just reverse it and they're like, oh, why the hell would that person be responsible? There was nothing indicating. So to reveal it by episode 3 and then to have it be switched into getting to go inside that psycho's head and watch the other characters doubt, suspect, and then especially the man who seemingly is the craziest of them all try to hunt you down. It actually gives a level of anxiety I haven't quite experienced in anime. Because as much as I want this man captured and exposed, the longer he isn't, the more psychological experiments can occur on these characters. And I love the idea of Ichi kind of being like a hunter, and the fact that even though he seems probably one of the most passive of them all, I think the traitor, as clearly stated in this episode, very much realizes that's the biggest threat. So I'm curious to see if he gets out of this one and isn't exposed, if in future games, or maybe within even this game, given they still have a couple more cards, maybe 1 or 2 cards left to expose, I'm curious to see if he's going to start targeting him, because clearly he knows he's a threat. But at the same time, do you really want to, you know, target the person who could probably expose you and has even made you shit your pants a little, right? Still, great show. I'm really enjoying this one. I'm glad that it hasn't dipped in quality. I find myself being interested in it more, sometimes in different ways. Like, for the first 3 episodes, it was definitely the traitor, the possibility of any of them being the traitor. And now it feels more like I'm so interested to see how characters will respond, because even though we know, when you really put yourself back in their shoes, look at the first few episodes, it's very easy to doubt any one of them, and you understand how these high school emotions can very much sway one way or another to an extreme in just a matter of seconds. I truly think this is one of the most entertaining shows to discuss, whether you're posting online, going to YouTube comment sections, making videos like myself. I think these are the shows that really you don't get enough of, and probably for the best, right? Because if we had one of these shows every single season, I mean, eventually we pretty much end up in the isekai territory, where it literally is like watching the same show with a different skin, like you're playing an MMO and just changing the skin, right? But still, it's something that I wish we got a bit more of, maybe not every season, but maybe a couple of years, because these really scratch an itch that anime doesn't show me enough of. But I'm loving this one, and seemingly based on my comment section, a lot of people are as well. So thoughts, if you have any theories on maybe where our main man's going to go with potentially trying to expose a traitor, let me know your feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.